The automated probe transmitted its final burst of data before shutting down. Its energy cells were nearly dead after 3 years of continuous operation in the hostile conditions of Sector 7G. The data packet traveled through the void of space, bouncing between relay stations until it reached the massive orbital platform that housed the Galactic Council's survey department. Junior analyst Krelox yawned as he processed the incoming reports. Most survey data was boring. Gas giants with nothing special. Dead rocks, occasionally an ice world with interesting mineral deposits. He was 3 hours into his shift and already tired. His tentacles moved slowly across the data interface, sorting files into appropriate categories. Then something caught his attention. The probe from Sector 7G had flagged something unusual. He pulled up the full report and his breathing slits flared open in shock. The probe had detected artificial structures. On a Class 13 death world, that was impossible. Krelox checked the classification twice. Yes, definitely Class 13. The highest danger rating in the galactic database. He had never even heard of a Class 13 world. The worst planets he knew about were Class 8 or 9, and those were already considered uninhabitable nightmares. He opened the planetary data file. The world was designated Terra. His skin turned pale blue as he read through the environmental conditions. Surface gravity measured at 1.0 standard units. That was crushing by most species standards. Atmospheric composition was 21% oxygen. Oxygen, that reactive, corrosive, toxic gas that could ignite organic compounds. The temperature range swung wildly between freezing and boiling across different regions. Massive storms, earthquakes, volcanic activity all recorded as common occurrences. And yet, the scans showed cities, roads, agriculture. Signs of advanced civilization spread across every major landmass. Krelox immediately forwarded the report to his supervisor with a priority flag. Within minutes, it reached the desk of Senior Administrator Zixthor, a dignified counselor who had served the survey department for 40 years. Zixthor read the report 3 times. Each time, he became more convinced it was an error. Probe malfunction, obviously. No species could evolve on a Class 13 world. The conditions would be lethal to any known form of complex life. He drafted a response ordering a replacement probe, but something made him pause. The probe's final status check showed all systems functioning normally. The data was clean with no corruption markers, and the artificial structures were too detailed, too consistent to be sensor glitches. Zixthor forwarded the report higher up the chain with a note of caution. By the end of the day, it had reached the council chamber itself. The emergency session was called within hours. Representatives from 12 major species gathered in the great circular hall. The holographic display showed Terra spinning slowly in the center of the room. Red warning indicators pulsed around it, highlighting the deadly conditions. Chief Xenobiologist Dr. Vera, a slender being with crystalline features, stood to address the council. Her voice resonated with concern. Honored council members, I have reviewed the probe data extensively. While extraordinary, I believe it is accurate. There is indeed a technological civilization on this Class 13 world. We must investigate. Zixthor objected immediately. This is clearly a malfunction. No species could survive those conditions, let alone build cities. The oxygen alone would be lethal. The gravity would crush most of our bodies. The temperature extremes would kill within minutes. Dr. Vera nodded slowly. I understand your skepticism. I shared it initially. But consider this. What if a species did evolve there? What would they be like? How would they have adapted? This could be the most significant xenobiological discovery in galactic history. The debate continued for hours. Some council members argued for quarantine protocols. Others insisted it was a waste of resources to investigate sensor errors. But Dr. Vera's argument slowly won support. If there was even a small chance the data was real, they had to know. Finally, a vote was called. The decision passed narrowly. A research vessel would be dispatched to Terra with a full complement of scientists, diplomats, and security personnel. The ship chosen was the Harmonious Discovery, one of the newest and most advanced exploration vessels in the galactic fleet. 3 weeks later, the Harmonious Discovery dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Terra system. The crew of 47 beings from 8 different species began their approach cautiously. Long-range scans confirmed everything the probe had reported. The planet was a nightmare of hostile conditions, and it was covered in signs of civilization. Captain Threll, a methodical commander from the Vraxian species, ordered a high orbit. They would observe before making contact. The crew watched their displays in growing disbelief as detailed scans came in. The artificial structures were not just present. They were everywhere. Massive cities with millions of inhabitants, complex transportation networks, industrial centers, agricultural regions spanning thousands of square kilometers, and the life forms themselves were active at the surface level. No protective domes, no underground cities. They were living directly in that toxic, crushing environment. Dr. Vera examined the biological scans with intense focus. The dominant species was bipedal, carbon-based, and appeared to breathe the oxygen-rich atmosphere. They moved easily in the heavy gravity. Temperature sensors showed them functioning in conditions that ranged from far below freezing to extreme heat. "Captain," she said quietly, "we need to get closer. I need better resolution on their biology." Captain Threll authorized a lower orbit. The harmonious Discovery descended carefully, ready to retreat at any sign of threat. But there was no hostile response. The inhabitants seemed unaware of their presence or perhaps simply uninterested. The enhanced scans revealed details that made the entire crew fall silent. These beings, these humans as their language data suggested they called themselves, were not wearing protective suits. They walked around on the surface as if it were perfectly normal. Children played in areas with full exposure to the elements. Workers performed outdoor tasks for hours at a time. One image captured the crew's attention. It showed a human standing on a mountain peak, arms raised in what appeared to be celebration. The temperature reading for that location was well below freezing. Wind speeds were dangerous. The oxygen content at that altitude would be insufficient. For most galactic species, the human was wearing minimal protective gear and appeared to be enjoying the experience. "By the old stars," whispered one of the junior scientists. "They are recreational mountaineering. They climb deadly peaks for fun." Captain Threll made his decision. "Dr. Vera, prepare your first contact team. We will attempt communication. But everyone wears full hazard suits and gravity compensators. I want medical teams standing by. We do not know what effects their world might have on us." The message was broadcast on multiple frequencies in the standard galactic greeting protocols. It took less than an hour to receive a response. The humans acknowledged the message and expressed willingness to meet. Coordinates were provided for a location they called the United Nations headquarters. The landing party consisted of 8 crew members, including Dr. Vera, a diplomatic officer named Quelix, and 6 security personnel. They boarded a shuttlecraft equipped with full life support systems. As they descended through the atmosphere, alarms blared constantly. The oxygen levels, the pressure, the temperature variations, everything registered as hazardous. They landed in a designated area. Through the shuttle windows, they could see humans gathering to observe. The aliens took 20 minutes to prepare, checking and rechecking their environmental suits. The gravity compensators hummed to life, reducing the crushing 1.0 G to something more manageable. Finally, they opened the shuttle door and stepped onto the surface of Terra. Every sensor screamed danger warnings. Dr. Vera felt her suit working overtime to filter the corrosive atmosphere. The gravity, even compensated, felt oppressive. The temperature was uncomfortable despite the suit's climate control, and then they saw the humans up close for the first time. The beings walked toward them wearing simple cloth coverings. No helmets, no breathing apparatus, no gravity support. Their skin was directly exposed to the toxic air. They moved with ease and grace in the crushing gravity. Some were even smiling. A facial expression the aliens had learned indicated friendliness in human culture. A human stepped forward. She was tall by their species standards, with dark skin and hair. She raised one hand in a greeting gesture. "Welcome to Earth," she said in clearly articulated sounds that the translation devices quickly processed. "I am Secretary General Amara Okonkwo. We are honored by your visit." Quelix, the diplomatic officer, stepped forward. His translation device converted his response into human language. "We are grateful for your welcome. I am Diplomatic Officer Quelix of the Galactic Council. We come in peace and with great curiosity. Your world is most unusual." Secretary General Okonkwo smiled wider. "Unusual? In what way?" There was a long pause. How could they explain? How could they tell these beings that they lived on what the rest of the galaxy considered an uninhabitable hellscape? Dr. Vera spoke up, her scientific curiosity overcoming diplomatic protocol. Your planet is classified as a Class 13 death world. The meeting chamber had been specially prepared. Engineers worked for 3 days to create an environment where both humans and the galactic visitors could coexist safely. One half of the room was sealed behind a transparent barrier, filled with a carefully balanced atmosphere suitable for the aliens. The other half remained open to Earth's normal air. Dr. Vera watched through her helmet as Secretary General Okonkwo entered the human side of the chamber. The woman wore a simple business suit. No breathing equipment, no gravity support. She walked with confident ease that made Dr. Vera's enhanced suit system seem clumsy by comparison. Thank you for accommodating our needs, Quelix said through the communication system. His voice sounded tinny and artificial through the translation. We understand this arrangement is unusual. Okonkwo smiled warmly. Not at all. We want you to be comfortable. Though I admit I am curious about your equipment. You mentioned our world is dangerous to you? Dr. Vera activated her data display, projecting information visible to both sides. Secretary General, perhaps we should begin with basic environmental comparisons. Your planet's surface gravity is measured at 1.0 standard galactic units. Most species in the Council exist comfortably at 0.3 to 0.6 units. Anything above 0.8 is considered dangerous. Your gravity would crush several species outright. Okonkwo looked surprised. I had no idea. This is just normal to us. What about your world? My homeworld has 0.4 gravity units, Dr. Vera replied. Without this compensator, I would be unable to move on your planet. The weight would break my skeletal structure within hours. The human delegation exchanged glances. One of them, a scientist named Dr. Chen, leaned forward. What about the atmosphere? Is that a problem too? Your atmosphere is perhaps the most shocking aspect, Dr. Vera said. 21% molecular oxygen. That concentration would ignite most organic compounds in galactic species. Oxygen is highly reactive, corrosive, and toxic to the majority of known life forms. We breathe nitrogen-based mixtures with trace amounts of other gases, but never oxygen in such quantities. Dr. Chen nodded slowly. Oxygen is essential for us. We need it for cellular respiration. We would die within minutes without it. Which brings us to another concern, Quelix added. Your temperature ranges. We have observed surface temperatures on your planet, varying from -40 degrees to +50 degrees Celsius in inhabited areas. Some regions reach even more extreme values. How do you survive such fluctuations? Okonkwo shrugged. A gesture the aliens had learned indicated casual dismissal. We adapt. We wear different clothing depending on the climate. We build heated shelters in cold regions and cooling systems in hot ones. Humans have lived successfully in environments ranging from Arctic tundra to desert regions to tropical rainforests. Remarkable, Dr. Vera whispered. She entered notes into her datapad rapidly. Most species require stable temperatures within a 5 to 10 degree range. Your adaptability is extraordinary. The presentations continued for hours. The aliens learned about Earth's frequent natural disasters. Earthquakes that could level cities, hurricanes with winds strong enough to destroy buildings, volcanic eruptions that buried entire regions, tsunamis that crashed across coastlines with devastating force. And through it all, humans not only survived but thrived, rebuilding and continuing their civilizations. Dr. Chen pulled up images of human recreational activities. The alien delegation fell silent as they watched. Humans climbing sheer mountain faces thousands of meters high. Humans diving into deep oceans where pressure would crush unprotected galactic species. Humans jumping from aircraft and falling through the sky before deploying parachutes. These are hobbies? One of the security officers asked in disbelief. You do these activities voluntarily? For enjoyment? Extreme sports, Dr. Chen confirmed with a grin. Many humans find excitement in pushing physical boundaries. Rock climbing, skydiving, deep-sea diving, mountain biking, surfing in large waves. It is part of our culture. Dr. Vera was fascinated by human biology. Over the next several days, she conducted detailed scans and interviews with volunteer human subjects. What she discovered amazed her. Humans possessed redundant organ systems, 2 kidneys when one would suffice, 2 lungs, a 4-chambered heart that could pump blood efficiently in high gravity, a liver capable of regenerating damaged tissue, bones that could heal from fractures, skin that formed protective scars over wounds. Their immune systems were particularly impressive. Humans hosted billions of microscopic organisms in their bodies, most of them beneficial. They fought off viral and bacterial infections constantly, their white blood cells attacking invaders with aggressive efficiency. A minor injury that would hospitalize most galactic species for weeks might heal in a human within days. Your endurance is equally remarkable, Dr. Vera told a human athlete during one examination. You can run for hours without stopping. Your ability to regulate body temperature through perspiration allows sustained physical activity in conditions that would cause system failure in my species within minutes. The athlete, a marathon runner named James, smiled. Humans are persistence hunters. Our ancestors chased prey for hours or even days until the animal collapsed from exhaustion. We evolved to keep going when other creatures had to stop. Perhaps most disturbing to the aliens was learning about Earth's predator population. Dr. Chen gave them a presentation on terrestrial fauna. The aliens watched in horror as images appeared on screen: massive reptiles with crushing jaws, large felines with razor-sharp claws and powerful muscles, bears that stood 3 meters tall, venomous serpents, aggressive pack hunters. Your planet has more apex predators per square kilometer than any world in our database, Dr. Vera said quietly. And you live alongside them? Well, we try to give the dangerous ones space, Okonkwo replied. But yes, we share the planet with them. Humans are also apex predators. We are at the top of Earth's food chain. One of the security officers pointed at an image on the screen. What is that creature? It appears to be in your living space, Dr. Chen laughed. That is a dog, a domesticated canine. They are pets, companions. Many humans keep them in their homes. Pets? The security officer's translator conveyed his confusion perfectly. That animal has teeth designed for tearing flesh. Those jaw muscles could deliver a crushing bite. And you keep them in close proximity to your young? Dogs are loyal and friendly, Okonkwo explained. We have bred them over thousands of years to be companions. They protect our homes and families. Children grow up playing with dogs. They are part of our families. Dr. Chen pulled up more images. We also keep cats, which are smaller predators. Some people keep reptiles, birds, even fish. Animal companionship is important to humans. The aliens exchanged worried looks. These humans not only survived on a death world, but actively befriended its predators. What kind of species did that? The history lesson was equally alarming. Dr. Chen walked them through human history, from early hunter-gatherers to modern civilization. The aliens learned about the ice ages that covered large portions of the planet in frozen wasteland, about volcanic eruptions that changed global climate for years, about asteroid impacts and mass extinction events. Wait, Quelix interrupted. You are telling us there have been multiple extinction-level events on your planet? Events that wiped out the majority of life forms? 5 major ones that we know of, Dr. Chen confirmed. The most recent was 65 million years ago. Killed off the dinosaurs, which were the dominant species at the time. But life recovered. It always does on Earth. Evolution fills the gaps left behind. And humans survived these? Dr. Vera asked. Humans did not exist yet during the last major extinction, Dr. Chen clarified. But our ancestors did. Small mammalian creatures that survived by being adaptable and resilient. Modern humans evolved much later, but we inherited that adaptability. We survived ice ages, volcanic winters, floods, droughts, and every other disaster Earth could throw at us. On the 7th day of meetings, a diplomatic incident occurred. One of the alien visitors, a junior scientist named Pelix from an aquatic species, decided to test something. While the others rested in their sealed habitat, he ventured to the human side of the facility. The diplomatic staff had provided containers of water, clearly labeled as safe for consumption. Pelix thought if humans could drink this water, surely it would be safe for him too. He removed his breathing apparatus briefly and took a small sip. Within seconds, his biological systems went into crisis. The water contained dissolved minerals and oxygen levels that were toxic to his physiology. Emergency medical teams rushed him to the alien habitat's medical bay. It took hours to stabilize him. When Dr. Vera learned what happened, she immediately contacted Secretary General Okonkwo. I must apologize for Pelix's actions. He acted foolishly, but I must ask you and your people drink that water daily. Tap water, yes, Okonkwo confirmed, looking concerned about Pelix. It is treated to remove harmful bacteria and parasites, but otherwise it is simply filtered groundwater. Is it really that dangerous to your species? That water almost killed him, Dr. Vera said quietly. The dissolved oxygen alone would be toxic to most galactic species. The mineral content is far too high, and you consume this regularly with no ill effects? The harmonious discovery arrived back at Council Space 3 weeks after departing Earth. Captain Threll transmitted their full report before the ship even docked. Within hours, the data was spreading through every major civilization in the galactic community. The news could not be contained. Humanity existed, and the implications were staggering. Emergency sessions were called across multiple worlds. News networks broadcast endless analysis. Scientists debated on public forums. Military strategists held classified meetings. Religious leaders questioned the implications for their understanding of life. Economists calculated potential impacts. Everyone had an opinion about what humanity meant for the galaxy. The Galactic Council chamber filled to capacity for the formal presentation. Representatives from 43 species crowded into the Great Hall. Security was increased. Medical teams stood ready. The atmosphere was tense with anticipation and fear. Captain Threll stood at the central podium, his image projected on massive displays throughout the chamber. Dr. Vera stood beside him, ready to provide scientific details. The presentation lasted 4 hours. They showed footage of Earth's environment, biological scans of humans, recordings of conversations with human representatives, data on human history and capabilities. The chamber erupted in debate the moment they finished. "This is madness," declared General Vorkith, the military commander of the Thraxian Empire. "These beings are dangerous. They evolved in conditions that would kill most of us. Their physical capabilities are terrifying. We should establish an exclusion zone around their system. No contact, no trade. Keep them quarantined." Trade Representative Silix countered immediately. "Or we recognize the opportunity here. Humans possess natural abilities that we require expensive technology to replicate. They could perform labor in high-gravity environments, work in atmospheres we find toxic, endure conditions we cannot. The economic benefits could be substantial. You want to exploit them?" Ambassador Corell protested. "These are sentient beings, not tools. They deserve respect and consideration." The arguments continued for days. Each session ended without resolution. The council was deeply divided. Some saw humans as a threat. Others saw opportunity. A few, very few, simply saw neighbors who deserved friendship. Meanwhile, humanity's existence became the most popular topic across galactic communication networks. Amateur xenobiologists shared theories about human evolution. Entertainment programs created speculative content about what contact with humans might be like. Conspiracy theorists claimed humans were engineered weapons from an ancient war. The fascination was universal, even if the opinions varied wildly. On a distant colony world, construction worker Xylex watched a news program about humans during his break period. The footage showed a human firefighter running into a burning building. The reporter explained that humans could survive briefly in high-heat environments and tolerate smoke inhalation that would be immediately fatal to most species. Xylex thought about the mining accident last year. 3 workers trapped in a collapsed tunnel filled with toxic fumes. All 3 died before rescue teams could retrieve them. If humans could tolerate such conditions, even briefly, how many lives might they save? The council finally agreed to allow limited human contact under strict protocols. A small delegation of humans would be permitted to visit council space. They would undergo extensive testing and observation. Based on the results, the council would decide humanity's future relationship with galactic civilization. Secretary General Okonkwo selected the delegation carefully. Scientists, diplomats, military advisors, medical professionals, and cultural representatives. 12 humans total. They boarded a specially modified transport ship and departed for the council homeworld. The journey took 6 weeks. During that time, the human delegates studied everything they could about galactic civilization. They learned about the various species, their cultures, their technologies, their concerns. They practiced diplomatic protocols. They prepared for questions about Earth and humanity. Lieutenant Sarah Chen, one of the military advisors, spent hours in the ship's gym maintaining her fitness. The ship's alien crew watched in fascination as she exercised with weights that they would require mechanical assistance to lift. She ran on a treadmill at speeds they found alarming. When she finished, barely breathing hard, they asked her how she accomplished such feats. Standard human exercise routine, Sarah explained. If I do not maintain my conditioning, I will lose strength and endurance. This is normal for us, normal. That word kept coming up. What humans considered normal, the rest of the galaxy found extraordinary. The delegation arrived at the Council homeworld, a beautiful planet with gentle gravity, mild climate, and carefully maintained ecosystems. To the humans, it felt almost dreamlike in its comfort. The air was easy to breathe. The gravity made them feel light and agile. The temperature was perfect. "This is pleasant," Dr. Marcus Webb commented as they disembarked. "I feel like I could jump twice as high here." "Please do not," their escort requested nervously. "We have concerns about your physical capabilities in our environment. The medical teams are worried you might accidentally injure yourselves or others." The testing began immediately. Humans underwent medical scans, physical assessments, psychological evaluations, and countless interviews. Every aspect of human biology and culture was examined and documented. The galactic scientists could not hide their amazement at what they found. One test involved a simple comparison of physical strength. A human volunteer, a woman of average build named Emily Rodriguez, was asked to lift progressively heavier weights. The observers expected her to struggle with loads that aliens would find challenging. Instead, Emily lifted weights that would require mechanical assistance for most species. She did so repeatedly with controlled movements until the test administrators ran out of appropriate weights to challenge her. "How is this possible?" one scientist asked. "Your muscle density is not significantly different from other species. Yet your strength output is substantially higher." "High-gravity environment," Dr. Webb explained. "We evolved carrying our body weight against 1.0 g constantly. Every movement, every action we perform on Earth requires more force than similar movements would require here. Our muscles adapted accordingly." Endurance testing proved equally shocking. A human marathon runner named David Kim was asked to run at a moderate pace for as long as he felt comfortable. He ran for 3 hours without stopping, maintaining a speed that the tracking systems flagged as exceptional. When he finally stopped, he was not even breathing heavily. "I could keep going," David said apologetically, "but I was not sure if you needed me to stop for your data collection." The medical teams discovered that humans had resistance to diseases that plagued other species. A virus that had caused a pandemic on a nearby world had no effect on human subjects. Their immune systems destroyed it before symptoms could even develop. Bacterial infections that required extensive treatment in aliens were fought off by human bodies within days. Cultural exchanges revealed more surprises. The humans shared food from Earth. Most of it was inedible or toxic to aliens due to the chemical compounds and preparation methods. Humans routinely consumed plants that contained natural toxins, which their bodies processed without harm. They ate preserved foods with salt concentrations that would be dangerous to most species. They even enjoyed beverages containing alcohol, a poison that many aliens used as industrial solvent. The humans brought recordings of Earth's entertainment and art. The aliens were confused by much of it. Action movies featured humans surviving injuries that would be fatal to most species. Horror films created tension from situations that humans found frightening, but that aliens considered certain death scenarios. Sports footage showed humans engaging in violent physical contact for recreation. One council member watched a recording of a human boxing match and turned to Secretary General Okonkwo in shock. "They are hitting each other deliberately. For entertainment?" Okonkwo nodded. "Boxing is a sport with ancient roots. The participants are trained athletes who understand the risks. There are rules and safety measures. It is about skill, strategy, and physical prowess. But the impacts, those blows would cause severe trauma to most species. Internal bleeding, broken bones. And they endure this repeatedly? Human bones are dense and strong. Our skulls are reinforced to protect our brains. Our bodies can absorb significant impact. Yes, injuries occur, but professional medical care and human healing abilities usually resolve them." The galaxy's military forces were particularly interested in humanity. Lieutenant Chen gave a demonstration of standard human military equipment and tactics. The observers watched as she performed exercises that would be considered superhuman feats for most species. She carried heavy equipment across rough terrain. She demonstrated marksmanship with various weapons. She showed hand-to-hand combat techniques that utilized human strength and endurance. General Vorketh, despite his initial opposition to human contact, could not help but be impressed. Your soldiers receive special training and augmentation? Training, yes. Augmentation, no, Lieutenant Chen replied. This is standard human military capability. All soldiers undergo similar preparation. 2 years after first contact, humanity had integrated into galactic society in ways nobody had predicted. Earth became a hub of activity. Alien scientists arrived daily to study the unique biosphere. Trade agreements brought wealth to human economies. Cultural exchanges enriched both sides. But the real changes happened in the places where humans went to work. The mining colony on Tarvis 7 had been struggling for 5 years. The planet had valuable mineral deposits, but the extraction was difficult. High gravity made machinery expensive to operate. Frequent seismic activity damaged equipment. The acidic atmosphere corroded metal. The mining company was considering abandoning the operation as unprofitable. Then they hired human workers. A team of 30 miners from Earth arrived in standard protective gear. The site manager, a Talarian named Vrex, watched nervously as the humans disembarked. He had read the reports about human capabilities, but seeing them in person was different. The humans walked across the colony's surface with ease. The gravity that made Vrex feel constantly exhausted despite his compensator seemed not to bother them at all. They moved equipment by hand that usually required mechanical loaders. They worked 8-hour shifts in conditions that limited other workers to 2-hour rotations. Within 3 months, productivity increased by 400%. The mining operation became profitable. Word spread quickly. Other companies began actively recruiting human workers for hazardous duty positions. Sarah Chen, now promoted to captain, found herself leading a human security force for a shipping corporation. Pirates had been attacking cargo vessels along major trade routes. Standard security forces were effective but limited by the need for life support and environmental protections. Humans changed the equation. When pirates boarded a ship expecting quick surrender from the cargo haulers, they instead encountered humans. The pirates were used to fragile aliens who could be intimidated or quickly overwhelmed. Humans fought with intensity that shocked them. Captain Chen's team secured the ship within minutes, capturing the pirates with minimal damage. Piracy along that route decreased dramatically. Nobody wanted to face human security forces. The reputation spread. Human security became the gold standard for cargo protection. Dr. Marcus Webb established the first human-led emergency response team. When disasters struck on worlds across the galaxy, his team deployed rapidly. They worked in environments that would incapacitate other rescuers. Chemical spills, building collapses, fires, floods. They handled everything. The volcanic moon of Pyros 3 suffered a catastrophic eruption. Lava flows threatened a research station housing 200 scientists. The evacuation was going slowly. Most rescue personnel could not approach close enough to the danger zone due to the extreme heat and toxic gases. Dr. Webb's team arrived within 6 hours. They wore heat-resistant suits but needed minimal life support compared to other rescuers. They entered the threatened areas and evacuated scientists who were trapped by the lava flows. They worked for 12 continuous hours in temperatures that would have killed most species within minutes. All 200 scientists were saved. The footage of humans calmly walking through a hellscape to save lives became legendary. Requests for human emergency responders flooded in from across civilized space. But integration was not without problems. A diplomatic incident occurred on the pleasure world of Serenus. A human tourist named James Peterson was visiting with his family. His 8-year-old daughter Emma wanted to pet one of the native creatures. It was a small herbivorous animal that locals kept as companions. Emma approached the creature slowly and gently, just as her parents had taught her. She extended her hand carefully. The creature seemed interested, moving closer. Then Emma reached out to touch it. Her fingers made contact with the creature's soft fur. The creature panicked at the touch, fled in terror, and crashed into a wall, injuring itself. The incident sparked outrage on Serenus. Emma had not meant any harm. She was a gentle child who loved animals. But her touch, normal contact pressure for a human, had been painful to the delicate creature. The local authorities demanded the Peterson family leave immediately. The situation escalated into a diplomatic crisis. Anti-human groups on several worlds used the incident as proof that humans were too dangerous to integrate into galactic society. Pro-human advocates argued it was an accident, a learning experience. Humans were not intentionally harmful. They just needed to be more careful around more fragile species. Secretary General Okonkwo addressed the issue directly in a broadcast to the galaxy. She explained that humans would establish better education programs about interspecies interaction. Human tourists would receive mandatory briefings about the fragility of other species. Warning systems would be implemented. Humanity took responsibility for learning to coexist peacefully. The crisis passed, but it highlighted the real challenges of integration. Humans were strong, durable, and resilient. Most other species were not. Careful protocols were necessary. Meanwhile, the search for other Deathworld species was bearing fruit. Survey teams discovered the Kreshna on a Class 10 world with extreme temperature cycles. They found the Dravix on a high-pressure aquatic world rated Class 11. The Thorian came from a world with intense radiation levels, Class 9. Each species brought unique adaptations. The Kreshna could survive temperature extremes even humans found challenging. The Dravix possessed incredible strength in high-pressure environments. The Thorian had natural radiation resistance. Together with humans, they formed an unofficial coalition of Deathworlders. Dr. Vera studied them all with fascination. She published papers comparing Deathworlder adaptations. The similarities were interesting. All Deathworld species showed robust healing, redundant biological systems, and high stress tolerance. But humans remained the most extreme example, having evolved on the harshest rated world yet discovered. Cultural exchanges between Deathworld species were particularly interesting. They understood each other in ways that other species could not. A human and a Kreshna could discuss surviving planetary disasters and share meaningful experiences. A Dravix and a human could compare notes on living with dangerous predators. They formed a bond based on mutual respect for surviving the unsurvivable. Earth hosted the first Deathworlder Summit. Representatives from all discovered extreme environment species gathered in Geneva. The aliens were nervous about visiting Earth at first, but they found they could tolerate the conditions better than most species. A Class 10 survivor could manage Class 13 with some support. The summit established the Deathworlder Accord. The species agreed to cooperate on hazardous operations throughout the galaxy. They would share knowledge about survival techniques. They would provide support to each other's colonies. And they would serve as the galaxy's first responders for extreme crisis situations. General Vorketh, who had once called for human quarantine, found himself working closely with human military advisors. He admitted his initial fears had been misplaced. Humans were not aggressive invaders. They were protectors. Their strength was used to defend, not to conquer. "I was wrong about your species," he told Captain Chen during a joint training exercise. "I saw danger where I should have seen opportunity. Your people have saved countless lives across the galaxy. You have made us all safer." Captain Chen smiled. "We are happy to help. Earth taught us to survive impossible odds. It would be wrong not to use those skills to protect others when we can." Earth itself became a training facility. Aliens who wanted to work in hazardous environments came to train on humanity's homeworld. They called it the Crucible. Students learned to push their limits, test their equipment, and develop skills for extreme conditions. Graduating from an Earth-based training program became a prestigious achievement. Of course, the training was carefully supervised. Many aliens needed extensive life support just to be on Earth's surface. The gravity required compensators for most species. The oxygen levels had to be managed carefully. But those who completed the training gained abilities they never thought possible. They learned from humans and other Deathworlders how to overcome environmental challenges. Emily Rodriguez opened a gym on the Council homeworld. She taught aliens how to improve their physical fitness using human exercise techniques. Most species had never needed to build strength or endurance before. Technology handled difficult tasks, but Emily showed them the value of physical capability. Her students were mostly young aliens who wanted to push boundaries and test themselves. One student, a young Vraxian named Tellus, struggled with the exercises at first. The weights Emily considered light were nearly impossible for him to lift. Running for more than a few minutes exhausted him. But he persisted, training regularly for months. Gradually, his strength improved. His endurance increased. He would never match human capabilities, but he became stronger than any Vraxian in recent history. "You taught me that limits can be pushed," Tellus told Emily after completing a workout that would have seemed impossible to him months earlier. "Humans live that lesson every day on Earth. Now I understand why you are the way you are." Your world demanded excellence. You delivered. Human culture spread through the galaxy as well. Music, art, literature, and entertainment from Earth became popular. The human fleet assembled at the rally point in record time. 15 military vessels, 3 support ships, and transport craft carrying 2,000 human soldiers. The Kreshna contributed 500 warriors. The Dravik sent 300 specialists. The Thorian provided 200 troops with radiation warfare expertise. The Deathworlder Accord had mobilized. Captain Chen stood on the bridge of the Earth Defense Force ship Indomitable. She wore standard combat armor, lightweight by human standards but containing life support systems for operations in various environments. Around her, the bridge crew prepared for combat with calm efficiency. They had trained for this, not against the Krelax specifically, but against any threat to galactic peace. Admiral Patricia Okafor commanded the fleet. She was a veteran of Earth's military conflicts, experienced in strategy and leadership. She studied the intelligence reports on the Krelax with careful attention. Strong fighters, good tactics, advanced weapons, but nothing that suggested they were prepared to face Deathworlders. Their homeworld is Class 7, she said to her senior officers during the final briefing. They are tough by galactic standards. They have advantages over standard Council forces. But they are not Deathworlders. They have never faced species that evolved in true hell. That is our advantage. We can operate in conditions they find difficult. We can endure what they cannot. Use that. The fleet jumped to the besieged colony of Tyrannus 4. The Krelax had been bombarding the planet for 2 weeks. Council defense forces were losing ground. Evacuation was underway but proceeding slowly. The colony held 20,000 civilians of various species. Most were trapped behind Krelax lines. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. Krelax sensors detected them immediately. Their commanders saw the new arrivals and assumed they were standard Council reinforcements, more easy victories. They prepared to engage with standard tactics. What they did not know was that humans had studied their previous battles. The intelligence was detailed. Krelax tactics relied on aggressive assault, overwhelming firepower, and the psychological impact of their fearsome reputation. They expected enemies to break and retreat. Nobody had stood and fought them successfully yet. Admiral Okafor divided her forces strategically. The main fleet would engage the Krelax ships in orbit. Ground forces would deploy to the planet's surface to break the siege and evacuate civilians. The Kreshna would handle extreme temperature zones. The Draviks would operate in the high-pressure underwater facilities. The Thorian would deal with areas contaminated by radiation weapons. And humans would go everywhere else. The space battle began with standard exchanges. Energy weapons, missile salvos, defensive screens. The Krelax pressed forward aggressively as expected. Their ships were well-designed and their crews competent. But they had not accounted for human endurance in combat. Council forces typically needed to rotate crew frequently during extended battles. Humans did not. They fought for hours without degradation in performance. Captain Chen's ship took heavy fire. Damage reports came in from multiple sections. Systems failed. Hull breaches occurred. Standard protocol would be to pull back for repairs. Instead, Chen's crew sealed the breaches, rerouted systems, and maintained their position. They kept fighting. The Krelax commanders were confused. Why was this ship not retreating? On the planet's surface, human troops deployed in conditions that shocked the Krelax ground forces. A major Krelax base was located in a region with toxic atmospheric contamination. They had chosen the location because Council forces could not operate there without extensive life support. Humans landed anyway. They wore masks to filter the worst toxins but otherwise operated normally. The Krelax defenders prepared for assault by heavily equipped troops moving slowly. Instead, human soldiers advanced rapidly across terrain the Krelax considered impassable. They moved through areas with dangerous radiation levels. They operated in extreme temperatures. They fought in conditions where the Krelax had tactical advantages and turned those advantages into nothing. Lieutenant Marcus Torres led a platoon through a bombed city sector. The buildings were unstable. Fires burned everywhere. Smoke filled the air with visibility near zero. Standard troops would need extensive equipment to operate here. Torres and his soldiers wore basic protective gear and moved like they were on a training exercise back on Earth. They encountered a Krelax patrol. The enemy soldiers were larger than humans, heavily muscled and equipped with advanced weapons. They were considered elite warriors by galactic standards. They saw the humans and attacked immediately, expecting quick victory. The Krillax soldiers were strong, but humans had evolved carrying their body weight in 1.0 gravity for their entire lives. The Krillax were tough, but humans had immune systems that fought off diseases constantly, and bones that healed from fractures. The Krillax were well trained, but humans had been training since they climbed down from the trees millions of years ago. The fight was brief and decisive. Torres's platoon secured the area and moved on. Behind them, the Krillax soldiers lay unconscious, restrained and ready for pickup by security forces. The humans had not killed them. They had simply overpowered them with speed, strength, and determination. Word spread quickly through Krillax communication networks. These new enemies were different. They did not break under assault. They did not retreat from danger. They operated in impossible conditions and fought with relentless intensity. For the first time, Krillax commanders felt something they rarely experienced: doubt. The siege of Tyrannus IV broke within 36 hours. Human and Deathworlder forces pushed the Krillax back systematically. Evacuation corridors opened. Civilians were extracted rapidly by rescue teams that included Dr. Webb's emergency responders. They worked in active combat zones, pulling people from wreckage while battles raged around them. The Krillax fleet attempted one final assault. They concentrated their forces for a massive strike meant to overwhelm the defenders. Admiral Okafor met them head-on. The space battle became a brutal exchange of firepower. Ships on both sides took damage, but the human vessels held their positions. Their crews worked through injuries and system failures. They adapted, improvised, and persisted. Captain Chen's ship lost main power. Emergency systems kicked in. Half the crew was injured, but they kept the weapons online and continued firing. A Krillax commander watching from his flagship could not understand it. That ship should be dead. Its crew should be incapacitated. Yet it fought on. The Krillax retreat began gradually. Individual ships started pulling back, then entire squadrons. Finally, the whole fleet withdrew. They had not been destroyed. They had not been outmatched technologically. They had simply encountered an enemy that would not quit, an enemy that treated their advantages as meaningless, an enemy from worlds that made the Krillax homeworld look gentle by comparison. In the aftermath, Admiral Okafor stood on the bridge of her battered flagship and surveyed the damage. They had won, but at cost. 7 ships heavily damaged, 300 casualties. Many wounded would recover thanks to human healing abilities, but some injuries were severe even for humans. Status report, she ordered. Krillax forces in full retreat, her tactical officer reported. Colony is secure. Civilian evacuation is 95% complete. Remaining civilians will be extracted within 12 hours. Deathworlder forces report mission success across all objectives. Okafor nodded. Send a message to the Galactic Council. Mission accomplished. Tyrannus IV is liberated. News of the victory spread through galactic space rapidly. The Krillax, who had seemed unstoppable, had been defeated by the Deathworld species. Analysis of the battle showed the key differences. The Krillax were powerful, but they came from a Class 7 world. They had advantages over standard Council forces. But against species from Class 9, 10, 11, and 13 worlds, those advantages meant nothing. The Krillax command reviewed the battle recordings in shocked silence. They watched human soldiers operate in environments that should have been lethal. They saw Deathworlder troops endure damage that would incapacitate their own warriors. They realized they had been acting like bullies who had never encountered anyone stronger. 3 weeks later, a Krillax diplomatic ship arrived at Council space. They requested negotiations. The message was simple: they wanted peace. They had underestimated galactic civilization. They had thought themselves superior. They had been wrong. The negotiations were tense. The Krillax had caused significant damage during their expansion. Reparations would be required. Borders would be established. But Captain Chen, attending as a military advisor, made a suggestion that surprised everyone. Let them join the Deathworlder Accord, she said. Their homeworld is Class 7. That makes them tougher than most species in the galaxy. They have skills and abilities that could be useful. They made mistakes, but they can learn from them. We all did. The suggestion caused considerable debate. The Krillax had been enemies. But Chen's logic was sound. They were from a harsh world. They had developed strength and resilience. With proper guidance, they could become allies rather than threats. The Krillax agreed to a probationary membership in the Accord. They would work alongside humans and other Deathworld species. They would learn about cooperation rather than conquest.